Have you ever noticed that the best moments in nature are almost never the ones you plan for? You plan a trip to see a waterfall. You search for the best viewpoint. You save all the famous places on your map. But somehow, the memory that stays with you isn't always the destination. It's something completely unexpected. I realized this after a few trips. Every time I came back home, people would ask me the same question. So, what was the best part? And I'd always struggle to answer. Because it usually wasn't the biggest waterfall, or the highest peak, or even the place I had spent weeks planning to visit. Instead, I'd find myself talking about a random moment that wasn't part of the plan at all. Like stopping on the side of a mountain road because the clouds suddenly rolled in, or watching a single eagle glide across a valley without flapping its wings, or sitting beside a quiet river, skipping stones, and completely losing track of time. None of those moments were on my itinerary. But somehow, they're the ones I remember the most. And that's when I started wondering why. I think it's because nature doesn't follow our schedule. It doesn't care what time we arrive. It doesn't perform when we want it to. A sunrise doesn't become more beautiful because we're ready with a camera. The clouds don't move just because we're waiting for the perfect photo. Wild animals don't appear on command. Nature simply exists on its own terms. And maybe that's exactly what makes it feel so real. The funny thing is, the harder I tried to chase the perfect moment, the more disappointed I became. I'd reach a famous viewpoint only to find it covered in fog. I'd wait for a sunset, and the sky would stay completely gray. I'd hike for hours hoping to spot wildlife and see absolutely nothing. At first, those moments felt like bad luck. But over time, I realized something. Nature wasn't ruining my plans. It was teaching me to let go of them. Because the moment I stopped expecting something incredible to happen, that's when incredible things started happening. One evening, I remember sitting near a lake after everyone else had already left. There was no dramatic sunset, no colorful sky, nothing that would go viral on social media. Just complete stillness. The water looked like glass. A cool breeze gently moved across the surface. Somewhere in the distance, birds were flying back to their nests before nightfall. I sat there for almost 30 minutes without saying a word. When I finally stood up to leave, I realized I hadn't looked at my phone even once. And honestly, that felt more refreshing than the entire trip. Nature has this strange way of reminding you that not everything has to be exciting to be meaningful. We've become so used to chasing highlights, the biggest adventure, the most beautiful photograph, the next thing worth posting. But nature quietly asks a different question. What if this moment is already enough? And I think that's a question we don't ask ourselves often enough. Maybe that's why children enjoy nature so easily. They don't care whether a place is famous. They can spend an hour watching ants carry leaves, or throw pebbles into a river just to see the ripples, or lie on the grass and point at clouds that look like animals. They aren't looking for extraordinary moments. They simply notice ordinary ones. Somewhere along the way, we stopped doing that. We became too busy trying to capture every experience instead of living it. And maybe that's why nature still feels magical. Because it's one of the few places that gently reminds us how to be present again. Now, don't get me wrong. I still love reaching beautiful viewpoints. I still enjoy watching waterfalls and sunrises. But those aren't the only reasons I travel anymore. Sometimes I'm perfectly happy just sitting under a tree while the wind moves through the branches, or listening to waves without feeling the need to say anything. Because I've learned that nature doesn't reward people who rush through it. It rewards people who slow down enough to notice. And maybe that's the secret we've been missing all along. The most beautiful moments in nature aren't always waiting at the end of the trail. Sometimes they're hiding the pauses between destinations, in the unexpected silence, in the gentle breeze, in the sound of flowing water, or in a sky that suddenly changes color when you weren't even paying attention. And once you start noticing those moments, you realize something beautiful. Nature was never asking you to find something extraordinary. It was simply inviting you to pay attention to what was already there.